كل اماكن الهوت سبوت على مستوى اسكندريه، الاماكن اللي هيحصل فيها تجمع للميه، ونشوف الاماكن الموجوده فيها. وبعد كده دخلنا على مرحله الورنينج، بنحذر كل الناس ونتج عنها ان احنا بنبتدي ناخد اجراءات سواء بقى من المحافظه او غيره عشان نبتدي نخلص. وده طبعا اثر على المخطط العام وازاي نقدر نخطط. ومع التخطيط العمراني في وزاره الاسكان ابتدينا نشوف ازاي نقدر نبني ده.
شكرا دكتور محمد. انا عارف طبعا ان محتاج وقت طويل، لكن معلش الوقت المحدود بتاع السيشن. المحاضره الاخيره خاصه بالمهندس خالد نجم. هو has a bachelor degree في organic agriculture science and he is currently international studying a master degree في integrated water resource management. He's focusing the Middle East and North Africa region at Cologne and German Jordanian University. So please.
Hello, thank you very much, Dr. Rafat and Dr. Hassan. So my topic is about the benefits of organic farming practices on crop water use efficiency, especially in arid regions. And I'm from the ITT, from the Institute for Technology and Resource Management in the Tropics and Subtropics from the PH Cologne, and also currently working at Enredam in Jordan, and before I did an exchange semester at the German Jordanian University. This is what I'm currently doing, and my areas of expertise and focus are the sustainable agriculture, organic agriculture in the tropics and subtropics, and rural development process. So today I will talk about the benefits of organic farming practices, and it will first have an introduction. Then I will talk about the problems, obstacles, and challenges of arid agriculture, such as nutrient leaching, runoff, groundwater associated, and irrigated associated salinity. Then the water resources use and crop water use efficiency in arid regions, and at the end, organic farming practices as the solution, and at the end I will draw a conclusion. So the abstract, which how I did in the for the exhibition was climate change impacts will hit arid regions the hardest, which is also Jordan, also Egypt. The current situation of agriculture in arid regions is quite severe. Low soil fertility, high rates of land degradation, water scarcity, low water quality, and increasing rates of soil and water salinity make agriculture production often impossible. Excessive irrigation and mining of aquifers result in extremely high salinity rates. Organic agriculture promotes soil fertility, biodiversity, closed nutrient cycles, and a diverse range of crops through a holistic approach, which gives an opportunity to cope with the current obstacles in arid agriculture regions and to increase crop water use efficiency significantly. Currently, 2.6 million people live in areas that are affected by drought and desertifications. 1.2 billion people are facing severe problems of water scarcity. And generally, the natural vegetation process of the soil takes 5 to 10 times longer in arid regions than in humid regions. An additional problem is the growing population rates that is very high in arid regions, which puts enormous pressures on food security. We have physical and demographic challenges like high poverty levels, unemployment, especially in the Middle East, increasing migration to cities, high urbanization rates, and extreme water scarcity, as for example here in Jordan, and land degradation processes. These challenges are going to be worse due to climate change, with increasing biophysical and non-biophysical obstacles. And as such, land degradation, limitation of natural resources, advancing desertification, water scarcity, also salinization rates, mainly through inadequate irrigation techniques. Non-biophysical challenges are also very important, such as inequitable access to land and water and markets. Now, very important, the prediction of nearly all global climate circulation models from the last 20 years give evidence that arid regions will have the highest climate change impacts, especially North and Sub-Saharan African regions and West Asia regions. So we have to find solutions. Organic farming or organic agriculture is defined by IFOAM, by the International Federation of Organic Agricultural Movements, by a production system that sustains the health of soils, ecosystems, and people relying on ecological processes, biodiversity, and cycles adapted to local conditions, rather than the use of inputs with adverse effects. It combines tradition, innovation, and science to benefit the shared environment and promote fair relationships and a good quality of life for all involved. So organic farming practices can be a solution, especially when we talk about agricultural production, into a more climate smart agriculture, a more resilient agriculture for arid regions. Here, especially in enhancing the crop water use efficiency. Crop water use efficiency is crop yield in kg divided by consumptive use of water in evapotranspiration by the crop. So the focus is set on managing water scarcity and water quality. This is very important. Right now, also in Jordan, the big focus has been on water quantity, but we have to look especially on water quality. This is very important. Salinity of soils and surrounding water resources and groundwater resources, one important problem. Soil fertility loss is also very, very grave. Loss of organic matter constantly occurs. No real organic matter initiatives are being done. And soil erosion and compaction also develops. But arid regions also have positive effects, like that, for example, pests and diseases, the pressures are relatively low compared to humid regions. Now I will skip these parts. This is about salinity. So my focus, or the idea is especially to improve the crop water use efficiency by soil water conservation practices. And here especially by using water balance approaches, the analysis of rainfall and irrigation patterns, crop water requirements, soil water storage and evaporation rates, and so on. But now when we talk about water conservation practices, it's really important, what is it? And organic farming practices might offer a possibility for that. The main objective of organic farming practices is to improve the soil fertility and to conserve biodiversity and to adapt production methods. Also, closed nutrient cycles are very important on farm level, and diverse range of crops to have a higher biodiversity and a more resilient and sustainable number of crops. And the control of pests and diseases needs to be done by natural antagonists. So what are organic farming practices? There are several organic farming practices. For example, using compost systems in order to enhance the organic matter in the soil. Agroforestry systems, they have a lot of benefits. Intercropping techniques, crop rotations, conservation of agriculture techniques, cover crops, mulching, and so on, using legume plants in order to collect the nitrogen from the atmosphere. And also efficient irrigation techniques and special selection of crops. It has plenty of advantages. Composting systems, for example, enrichment of soil fertility, soil health, improvement of soil biodiversity, elimination of weeds and pathogenic microorganisms, which get eliminated in the process of composting. Also, FAO is always talking about how important is the soil and that we should really put a focus on that. Franklin D. Roosevelt says, "The nation that destroys its soil destroys itself." So it's really important. And did you know that there are more living organisms in a tablespoon of soil than there are people on Earth? And another really beautiful thing is all the aspects that all the function that soils offers are enormous. So this is why we really have to look on soil, and we see it. We talked about, Dr. Hassan talked about flood resilient, how to improve, how to enhance infiltration capacities. It's all about the soil. We had just before 1 week ago, we had floodings in Amman. All downtown was in water. People lost their businesses and they had a lot of problems. So we have to think about the soil, how to work on the soil. Another thing, now we come back to organic farming systems, is agroforestry, is intercropping practices, conservation agriculture methods, like minimum tillage, and so on. I will not go in detail. These are pictures from work in Nepal, and you see, for example, agroforestry systems where you have crops and trees, and they both help each other. This is another work which we did with other students. So we theoretically analyzed how much, when we would use the organic waste of Amman and produce it and use it for compost production, mulching production, and also for anaerobic digestion, how much water can we save, and how much organic? No. So I haven't. Okay, for the conclusion, organic farming practices, or generally sustainable farming practices, offer a lot of possibilities, and I encourage this. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Khaled. We'll have still a couple of minutes if we need to ask questions. Dr. Abdullah.
Shukran, thank you. I would like first to thank the three speakers for their nice and comprehensive presentation. I have the first question for Mrs. Carl. You have a very nice presentation. I'm trying to be optimistic after listening to your presentation, but you didn't give us what's your recommendation for the region, what we should do to cope with the climate change. Well, I'd like to hear from you. The second question for Dr. Hamad Hassan. I think your presentation was very nice. I think for the model, we also need the calibration and the validation. And I'm sure that we don't have enough data to do the calibration and validation for your model, but we may look for a city that has the same environment and topographic conditions like Alexandria that we can use their data. Sometimes they based on that. I think we have to work on this, but I am very much impressed by your presentation about the details of it. And I wish you good luck for your project. Thank you.
You know, just 10 years ago, the word climate change, as I mentioned, was not uttered in an Arab context, and so, especially in Egypt at the League of Arab States, we could not say the word. So this is meant to be an assessment. However, we have taken this work to then do agriculture productivity models and health case studies that then provide solutions on a sector basis. Actually, on floods, we did something with Aqua, actually, and oh, they're gone already, the books I brought. And we have a module we prepared based on the RCAR findings on integrated water resource management across the different sectors that we looked at in RCAR. So this is an assessment output that then can inform management responses and also policy responses. But to have everything under the ATEM umbrella, this was one part of the package, and then you have to look at the other outputs. You can find those links at the RCAR.org website under the knowledge nodes that talks about disasters, adaptation. Active component was with GIZ also on the adaptation based on the outcomes, and the other components there on water. So it's just one part of the story, of course, and then actually what we wanted to talk about were solutions later on. But if you have ideas, maybe find me in the hallways, so we run out of time.
طبعا الفاليديشن والكاليبريشن يعني شيء مهم جدا دكتور، واحنا فعلا احنا بنجيب كل الهيستوريكال داتا من صور الاقمار الصناعيه وبنجري الرن ريترو اكتف بعدها، وبنقارنها بالحاجات المتصوره بصور الاقمار الصناعيه، بنشوف الايرور ما بين الميجرد والاوبزرفد. ساعات بيطلع كبير جدا، يعني بيطلع الايرور كبير وساعات بيطلع، بنحاول نظبط الموديل بقدر المستطاع بحيث ان احنا نقلل ويبقى نسبه الكريديبيليتي ونقلل الانسرتينتي. مين وايل بتشوف بقى نماذج مماثله زي ما حضرتك قلت من دول ثانيه عشان نعمل سيميلاريتي معانا. نعم.
More question?
لا دكتور محمد لو سمحت.
ايوه اتفضل.
وحضرتك في البدايه احنا بنتكلم عن كلايمت تشينج، تاثير الكلايمت تشينج على الامطار، وبعد كده احنا بنشوف ازاي نعمل ووتر اند ووتر مانجمنت للجزئيه بتاعتنا. الحقيقه احنا عندنا نقطتين تانيين. النقطه بتاعت الكونكلوجن اللي بيحصل للشواطئ. النقطه الثالثه ان احنا عندنا صيادين وميناء صيد كانوا هم حافظين النواه دي، حافظينها وعارفينها كويس. يعني المركب مش بتطلع الا في مواعيد معينه على حسب الهيستوريكال داتا اللي عندنا. النهارده حصل فيه تغير كمان للنواه، النواه بتيجي مفاجاه، بيبقى في مراكب كتير بتغرق وناس كتير بتموت، فالمفروض ان احنا في جزئيتين تانيين لازم يندرسوا مع بعض، اللي هو الجزء بتاع الكونكلوجن والجزء بتاع النواه او الايرلي سيستم، يبقى بحيث ان احنا نعمل منظومه متكامله. يعني
في الحقيقه النقطه اللي باشمهندس محمد عسل قالها دي غايه في الاهميه، ان الباترن نفسه بتاع سقوط الامطار بقى انيوجوال باترن، والبيهيفير بقى انيوجوال بيهيفير، والعمليه دي بتزداد القصه بتاعتها سنه عن سنه. القصه ان البرامج الموديلنج دي الميزه فيها بالتعاون مع وزاره الري والتعاون مع الارصاد الجويه بيعرفني امتى، ما انا عارف ان في نوى جاي وعارف ان انا عايز اعرف كميه المطر هتنزل فين قد ايه، وزمن الديتنشن زمن الاحتجاز قد ايه. انا امكانياتي في شركات الصرف مجموعه من العربيات البسيطه بناول بيهم، هنشر العربيات دي فين وهناول بيها ازاي. النقطه الثانيه بتاع حضرتك يعني برضو باشمهندس محمد حسن، كل واحد لما بقول له اهل مكه ادرى بشعبها، يعني عند مثلا الباشمهندس محمد حسن لما بنروح له بيحصل نوى بيسد البلاعات، فبقول له بتعمل كده، قال لي عشان الدبرايز والحطام لو نزلوا في الشبكه عندي هيقفلوها، وفعلا بيعمل كده وبيستنى عشان بس عنده في راس البر في لاند سكيب يقدر يشيله كده. فاحنا علينا ان احنا بنطلع نتائج الموديل وكل شركه بتبتدي تتعامل معاها على حسب المستجدات اللي موجوده. شكرا.
We'll discuss something very important from my point of view that
Carol will elaborate more on it just for 5 minutes before ending this session. So because we like to have feedback and recommendation from the audience. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.